Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dan Go player. In this video, I'm going to be showing you the ninth game of the 25th NONGSHIM Cup. So the NONGSHIM Cup is a team tournament, and China, Japan, and Korea all send 5 players each to the tournament. So there's 15 players in all, and the countries take turns sending their players to the rounds. So the Japanese player Kyokagen, that's his Japanese name. There is a Chinese pronunciation, which I can't really do, so I won't give you that one. So in this case, it was Japan versus Korea in the first round, and then China sent a player, and the country, in this case was Korea, that didn't participate in the second round, the second game, sent a player to the third game. So the countries take turns sending players to the rounds. But since China kept winning, China didn't have to send their other players. So Xie Erhao actually had 7 straight wins from the second to the 8th round in this 8th game, that is, in this tournament. They usually split this tournament into about 3 sets of games. So this game 9 was the final game of this set, and they're going to play game 10 to 14. I think it's in February, so it's going to be a bit later next year. Okay, so Xie Erhao is not the first, maybe Fang Tingyu and Yang Bingqing, who had 7 straight wins in a single tournament. But if you allow to look at multiple tournaments, there are players like Shin Jinseo and Li Chanho who had larger number of wins because they always came last and beat everyone. So like I think it's 11 straight wins for Shin Jinseo, and it was 14 for Li Chanho. All right, here we go. Shin Jinseo has the black stones, and he's playing 3-4 points and a big Shimari. So this is the modern opening. And this game, it's going to be relatively short, and there's going to be 2 sort of main themes. So the first one is the fact that Shin Jinseo offered to play the flying daggers variation here in the lower left corner. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It's a chance for me to go into a bit more detail than I usually do. I would usually suggest that if you feel at all insecure with the flying daggers, it's okay to play a relatively simple move like this. So in this case, since the left side is very much open, White would probably continue by playing this approach to the corner enclosure in the top, so to hope to build on the left side. Of course, White could do it in a different direction also. So like if White covered from this side, a corner enclosure in the lower right corner, which would be to a certain degree supporting White's wall on the left. So White would have more freedom of choice here. So White could play some kind of extension on the side, but also White could play a kakari to the top right corner. So either one would work. But White played the knight's move and Black offered to play the flying daggers. So the flying daggers is this variation where Black bumps against White and cuts here. So this depends on a ladder. So that is good for Black in this case. And it also has to do with Black's strong position in the upper left corner. So Black has that strong, the big Shimari there, which is going to help in some of the more complicated variations. So I'll just show you 2 of the main variations. White, the Kosumi at 7, that's the Tesuji here to improve White's group, and it's looking at a Hane at b3. So for instance, if Black extends here, White can play a Hane here and have a slight advantage in this fight. So this would be, for instance, it would be something like this, and White would be pushing here. And eventually the cut at g3 would become not so dangerous, and White would be able to maybe not even needing the move at 15. But this would be bad for Black. And this is where the ladder comes into the argument, because if White cuts here, then Black will cut here and is threatening a ladder. So if White jumps out, then Black can get a ladder here. So basically it's this one. You should probably just think of discarding this one offhand because it's already bad. The shape there is already bad. And it's going to get worse for white from here on. So like even if black does something like this. So it's just not going to work. So when the ladder favors black, white has to do something defensive here. So if white, for instance, connects here, then black will, this is the key point in the corner. Black cannot allow white to play at a3. And this is a variation where white tries to sacrifice the 3 stones on the side, start a fight in the center. So this is the case where black's strong position in the upper left corner starts to have to do with it. Because in this case, black will be able to attack white instead of white simply attacking the black group there. The white group is weak also. And so this gives black some options of counterattacking, and so taking the territory and then being able to fight at least equally in the center of the board. It gives black an advantage, a slight advantage here. Otherwise, and going back to this point, in order to stop black from getting a ladder, white's other option would be to play here, in which case it would be this variation, something like this. And white has all these cutting points. Say white plays here and black plays here. This is a variation we saw a lot of immediately after the AIs. This was, for a while, it was the most popular variation. And again, black's strong position in the upper left corner, it sort of limits white's options. And it also works well with the main variation, which is where white tries to live here and can kill black. White doesn't have 2 eyes. This is going to be something like a seki. So the most straightforward variation of this is where white reduces black to a 3 stone shape there, which is, if it was any bigger than that, if it was a 4-point shape, it would be, there would be extra liberties. And so that's what white was doing there. And the race to capture, actually, it's going to be a seki. Throwing in here is the key move, and black can reduce white's liberties by sort of squeezing there. And then black gets to cut here. Although it's a lot of moves, I will show you the entire variation where black gets to capture here. And so this shape here, it's a seki. So basically it's like this. In this case, black's wall there on the left side is actually, it's already creating something that looks like a territory on the left side of the board. So it's immediately working. While white's wall, although white has a big moyo there on the bottom side, there's still that invasion at n3, which is a bit annoying. So like, even if white plays here, black's probably going to get something from this invasion, so to a certain degree, at least to reduce it. So this is troublesome, makes it slightly better for black. That's why I say that, like, if you want to avoid that kind of stuff, it's relatively easy just to extend here, and then you have less variations to contend with. It's a more humanly logical idea, like the fact that you don't want those white stones to get isolated and floating around in the center of the board. So white's going to try to dominate the left side as much as possible. Or otherwise, like if white covers on the other side, is slightly different in that you might feel a bit more secure when white has that shimari, the corner enclosure in the lower right corner, to reinforce those stones. So now if there's going to be a fight on the bottom side, I would expect that white will be attacking black rather than black attacking white, or at least it's going to be a running fight that's equal. So this would give white the option of playing here, although reinforcing the lower side, that's also an option somewhere around here. Okay, so much for the 3-3-point joseki. In the game, white avoided that variation, which was because of the ladder favoring black and black's strong position in the upper left corner, and so white avoided that. Black did get to play an extra corner enclosure there in the top right. Black has gained a bit of speed in this opening, but of course white has that wall. So how that wall works is going to be the focus of the game. So white plays the full extension, and there's going to be a fight on the left side because black jumps in. And he kicked, after which white bumped against black. I'd say, first of all, I'd say that maybe white should have just played here and continued like this. So this would be a variation, something like that. And white would still have some potential to attack black on the left side. So this would be a more straightforward way for white to play. And the fact that white is not touching that black stone on the left side means that black stone will have to reinforce itself. So basically, bumping against it, in theory, that's supposed to be a bad move because white's bumping against black's weak stone. And when you attach against your opponent's stones like this, there's a tendency for both groups to get reinforced. So in this case, if we're just looking at the shape, you can see how white's exchange of C11 for black's extension at 1, that's reinforced the black group by making it a pillar. So if you're just depending on shape to choose your moves, you would probably automatically play here. The problem with this is that white gets to play the cap here, and black will be limited to the left side. So black will be surrounded and will have to make a base on the left side. Jumping out, which is not the intuitive, it's not the intuitive shape move. This move was really special to me, and I think it was a very good move. And if white plays a hane here, in the game white didn't, but if white plays a hane here, it's not a big deal. It wasn't a black territory on the left side anyway, so black's not really losing anything, and is actually moving out towards the center fairly quickly. So it's not an issue for black when white plays underneath like that. Okay, in the game, white played a kosumi. Black jumped out, and white jumped in here. And this is, it's sort of tricky, but it's probably possible because of black's weak shape on the left also. So black didn't try to cut it off yet and started with this. So black is playing here and sort of threatening the attachment here with which black can sometimes cut off that white stone. So he didn't do it yet, but he was sort of thinking of that. White played here, and so this is a rather passive way of playing, in which white gets 2 eyes, but also gets sente. It's also the fact that in that part of the board, in the upper left, white didn't really have much opportunity to play actively. So white was already in a kind of passive situation. White sort of just tried to quickly live and finish the fight there. Instead, white had the idea that maybe he could still attack, I would suppose. And black played here. So this is taking away that eye from white on the left side. So although there's still some maji, I'd say it's very awkward for white to try to live or make an eye on the left side of the board. So if we count that out, the whole group, it doesn't really have much eye space. And so black's trying to put pressure on the white group while making potentially some space for black to make a living shape on the left side. White continued with the shoulder hit here and an attachment. So this was another move that Kadawa didn't seem to like very much. And when I look at how it turned out, white became a bit heavy. So he might be trying to attack the black stones, the 3 black stones in the middle of the top side, but it didn't really work very well. So just to show you what I'm talking about, they got this exchange where black got a strong corner and white succeeded in cutting off the 3 black stones in the middle of the top side from the right, but black had options on the left half of that, which made it not so good for white. So all of those white stones are a bit cramped. By the way, that whole shape in the top right corner, that's actually a joseki. So it's not as if the local moves are bad or anything. Locally, it's a sequence that can be played. But in this board position, it does seem to be a bit heavy because that white group, if we look at the end line of white stones, let's just mark it to make that a bit more clear. This white group, it doesn't have 2 eyes. And so although white is cutting off black, white did not have the option of doing it so strongly. And this is where the game got difficult for white. But white should have probably just jumped out. So in that variation, we can look at this one. It's less of an attack against black, but when stuff like this happens, white's group is, on the whole, for instance, something like this might happen. White's group on the outside, it hasn't committed itself with those moves on the right, and that makes the whole thing slightly easier for white to deal with. So let's go ahead and look at the game variation. So here white played this exchange. Locally it's a joseki, but it's not really going anywhere with white as far as making territory is concerned. Like usually this final move at L14 would have been some kind of an extension on the top side with no black stones there. And so the bottom line is that when black played here, white could not cut black off. So for instance, if white had continued with, that would cut black off for the time being, but white's going to lose these, white's going to lose the cutting stone. So if white plays here, black plays the bamboo joint, and it's just not working for white. Or if white plays the attachment, which was the tesuji that he played in the game, in a different order, of course. In this case, black can bump against again. And so extending here, it's not working because 6 comes in Atari, and there's nothing white can really do about that. And if white connects, then black's going to cover here. So that's not working either. All right, so when black plays here, another variation I could go into is if white plays here, it's already sort of looking like bad shape. There's also the fact that, again, that group on the top side is going to be a liability because black's threatening to push through it. Black would probably start with pushing through it K14 is that, so like this. White's not going to be able to surround this black. Or if white plays on this side, now black's going to push through here. So the kosumi at 1 is not really working either. So he played once here and jumped into the corner. So when white plays here, black does have to back up and connect up. So if black plays something like this and white pushes through here, now this is going to be good for white because if black plays here, now this is the fun variation. And white captures the whole black group. So black cannot answer that way. That's why the attachment at the start point there, it was a tesuji. So black connected up and white got to take the corner. And so black plays here. So white's connection on the outside is a bit weak. So white covers and then black cut again. So this was the strong, you might say even decisive move. It was a very strong attack against white on the outside. So black cuts here and white jumped out. So after black plays here, if white had played on the other side, then black would play here. You can see the top side, it's just dead. It doesn't look like it's going to make 2 eyes. So now the left side is surrounded. This group is not going to die, but it really depends on how it lives because white doesn't want to be squeezed too much. Okay, so white plays these forcing moves, captures a stone. So he got an eye there, and he had time to defend the corner. So like he could have started making a second eye very easily, but he apparently had time to save the corner. So at this point, white is still sort of alive. Only now he started a ko. So if he had played like this, then he would have been alive. So the idea is that white has a cut on the third line. So this is the tesuji that white would like to be able to play. If black captures the stone, white gets to break through here and connect up. So this would just be good for white. However, black can connect here. And when white captures the 2 stones, the center gets cut off. So white's stones in the center, that's more than 10 stones. It's 12 stones, I guess. And it's just too big. White can't afford to sacrifice that group. And so white does want to set up the cup. So he has to start here. So if black answers this way, which would be a way to take away that second eye, then of course now white can play here. And this is no longer forcing because white's connected up. So that's what the stone at 1 is doing for white. However, black would connect on this side. So in this case, black's still taking away that eye. something like this. So white's threatening to cut at c14, which would be a ko. White has some local ko threats, so black, let's just say black avoids the ko. So in this case, white is alive. But this is a bit painful. So although white's alive, he's going to get attacked again. And this is just, it's very, very painful. And that's going to be a good result for black. Black's group on the top, there's an eye somewhere around here. It's a pretty secure eye. It's going to be difficult for white to take away that eye. Black has an eye on this side somewhere also. So there's really nothing serious to worry about for black here. It's safer than it might look. Okay, so white played at b10 and started this ko. So that was the idea with that move. So the variation that I was showing you was when white played here and tried to live. But it was a bit too painful, I suppose. And black was ahead. So white decided not to play that way, but played the more active ko. So obviously if white wins this ko, white's going to capture those black stones on the left side. And that exchange that white played with that white stone at b10, if black continues at some point with a connection and white wins the ko, then that stone at b10 is cutting the black group off. So those 4 black stones have been cut off because of that white stone at b10. Okay, so white plays the ko, and this is the only local ko threat. Black just finished the ko. So black does have a lead in territory at this point, and didn't really have much trouble saving the center group also. So this is the shape move. And now black is spreading out while threatening to invade the right side. So after this, black's pretty much okay. And he attacks again. So this is a very strong move. Just as a background, white is connected here. So if black tries to cut like this, white can capture the cutting stone. Or if black tries to cut like this, white can still capture the cutting stones. Black has a forcing move here, and which would be setting up a cut or something like this. So setting up a cut like this. And the game white covered, and now black played the hanging connection, which would, again, it was threatening to cut here either way, actually. This way it works also. So white answered that. And this move actually cuts the white group off. So in the game, white played an Atari and the hanging connection, and this white group on the top was isolated. So the question was, how does it live? First, I should show you the variation where white tries to capture the 3 stones. It looks like maybe white can do that. So it's an interesting variation. Black will cut here, curl around. So the tesuji is to play here. And it's going to be a ladder usually. So like if white plays here, it's not a ladder. It's actually like this. So black can capture like this, winning by 1 move. And if white pushes through here, black can play here again. And this time it's going to be a ladder if white takes. So like that. It's going to be a ladder. And if white extends down, now finally we have a case where black won't be able to play an Atari from T10. So like if black plays here, now black has no place to play an Atari. But instead black will cut here. It's slightly better for black to cut first and then play the forcing move and capture the 3 stones. Or if white plays here, black can connect here and capture like this. So this is a ladder. So that would be a success for black. Okay, so white answered on the right side and black curled around. So now if white covers, black can cut here, and there's a weakness there on the top. So in this case, white would eventually have to defend here, and black would just capture the 2 stones. So that's easy enough. Black ignored that. At this point, it starts to get pretty desperate for white. Played once here, and then started a ko. So there's actually a ko in the center of the board. If white were to push through here, black would just play a kosumi and be connected. So that's not working. If white were to connect here, black would connect. And this is a geta. So this is a net where black captures the two white stones. So the ko I'm talking about is when white plays here, and the black one stone is in Atari. And if black connects, white can cut here. So it is a direct ko. And connecting here will be a ko threat. So white needs two ko threats. And it looks like he just used one here in the corner. So what was this move about? So let's make a variation for that. And say, what if white plays here immediately and starts the ko? In this case, this is not going to be a valid ko threat because black will finish the ko. And so what happens here is, if white plays here, everyone should know the tessuji here. There's a tessuji in the corner where black plays an attachment here. I'm pretty sure it's in one of my tessuji videos, so you should see it there. If white plays underneath, black wins by one move. If white pushes through, black connects underneath. On the other hand, if white extends in this direction, it's a similar shape where black is going to win by one move. White's correct local move is to play here, which is going to set up a kind of a ko. So for instance, if black plays from this side, white just wins. So that's a mistake for black. White would win whatever he plays, but maybe 13 is the best move. So black will play from this side and play a hane. In this case, there's some ko-aji. So for instance, like this and like this. And if black plays here, white can play here and here. And this is going to be a ko. So black has to win the ko at t16. So there is some maji. If black plays here, white can throw in here to make a ko. So it's not completely hopeless. However, when white has lost the ko in the center already, this is an acceptable variation for black. So black might start playing elsewhere, or could probably even continue with the ko. And white doesn't have so many good ko threats in this game anyway. And it's not a direct ko. It's a ko that favors black. And so white would be in trouble. That's why white played at 7 now before losing anything towards the center. So that's why white started with this. At this point, black does want to avoid that ko because nothing's happened in the center yet. And so white had to waste that ko threat. But that was pretty significant because now white is one ko threat behind. So if white continues the ko in this variation, white doesn't have a good ko threat. So white would still, let's see. I won't show you the ko threat played sort of in the game was this one. So I'll show you this one. This is a local ko threat that tries to live with the white group. But again, white's losing a lot. And it's going to be very painful. So in the game, white played here. If black is too persistent here, then the ko threat gets bigger. So for instance, if black plays here, this ko is a ko that black cannot afford to lose. So white could start playing ko threats like this or like this, and would get a better result in return for the ko. So this would probably be a win for white. It would be that much of a difference. So black has to be careful here, and he just connected the ko. So now those two white stones, they're in the center of the board, they're net. So they're captured already. And black is alive on the left side, that is. So like if white does something like this, white will be connected. Black's pretty much okay on all sides. So like for instance, on this side, black has enough room to make an eye in the center of the board here. Looks like black's going to be okay. And black's pretty much alive on the top, but also black's winning the race to capture against white's group on the right here. So this white group is dead. And so it's a win for black. So actually going back, I've added some moves here, but going back to this point, this is where white resigned. So it was a convincing win for Shin Jinseo. I think Xie Erhao, he might have been a bit tired after winning 7 straight games. And the schedule is pretty tight. So they play something like every day and sometimes every other day or something like that. So he played a lot of games in 1 week. Maybe he was a bit tired. And so just to recap about the entire tournament, that means that although Japan won its first game, 4 Japanese players are gone. And we're just left with Iyama. And Korea lost 4 of their players also. And so they have only Shin Jinseo. And so the next person up is the country that did not participate in this game. So that's Japan. It's going to be Iyama against Shin Jinseo. But I think we have to wait for a couple of months before that happens. So thank you for watching. Like the video if it was good, and thank you.